Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Lay, and I have the privilege of serving as the president and CEO for the Seattle Southside Chamber of Commerce and executive director for the Success Foundation. Washington State is a powerhouse of innovation and creativity. From pioneering technologies to community-centered solutions, the bold ideas born here are shaping industries, strengthening communities, and setting the pace for what's possible. We have so many things to be proud of and so many things that we can call our own, like pickleball, which was invented on Bainbridge Island in the summer of 1995 from 3 dads who just wanted to entertain their bored kids. Or like our very own Sound Transit Link light rail system. The line currently stretches from Northgate all the way down to Angle Link, 33 miles of reliable, accessible transit connecting neighborhoods, cities, jobs, schools, and the airport. Soon it will span 116 miles from Everett to Tacoma, helping shape the future of how we can move, how we connect, and grow as a region. The Roadhouse Project right here in SeaTac is space designed for the people by the people. A future hub of cultural events, performances, small businesses, and local gatherings. A place where communities can come together, share stories, celebrate traditions, and build new connections. Boeing, founded in 1916, took flight into the future with groundbreaking airplanes that revolutionized global travel, from transforming our region into a true gateway to the world. Microsoft, founded in 1975, transformed the digital landscape by making powerful computing and innovative technology accessible to millions around the world. Amazon, founded in 1994, revolutionized the way that we shop by pioneering e-commerce and setting new standards in convenience, speed, and customer experience. Beyond retail, Amazon became a global leader in cloud computing, logistics, and innovation, reshaping industries and redefining what's possible in the digital economy. Starbucks, founded in 1971 at Seattle's iconic Pike Place Market, grew from a single storefront into a global coffee powerhouse. With its focus on quality, community, and experience, Starbucks became a beloved staple, not just across the country, but around the world, helping to define modern coffee culture. In the Seattle Southside and across Washington State, we don't wait around for change. We start it. And before we begin, and as we gather, we respectfully acknowledge that our event is taking place on occupied Coast Salish land, and that the Seattle Southside Chamber is on the homelands of the Duwamish people. We pay respects to Coast Salish elders, past and present, and extend that respect to their descendants and to all Indigenous people. This copyrighted event is being recorded live and is presented by the Seattle Southside Chamber of Commerce and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of the Chamber. And we truly couldn't do this important work without our generous support of our sponsors, and we sincerely thank them for making this event possible. Thank you to our host, Highline College, for allowing us to use such a welcoming and beautiful space once again for our leadership conference. And if you're a Highline alum, will you raise your hand? Welcome back. Next, we have 3 media sponsors today. First, we have one of our board of directors, South King Media, live streaming today's event. Next, we have Crane Photography, taking free headshots here in the corner. And last, we have Morley Creative, creating video content for today's event. Thank you so much for your support. Next, we have a print sponsor, Fast Science Bureau in West Seattle. They have produced these incredible books that you're holding, the signage, and your Empower and Inspire tokens at your table, which you will use to give to any speaker who has inspired or empowered you today. Thank you again, Fast Science. Next, I want to give a huge thank you to our catering sponsors, Second Love Coffee Roasters for the incredible spread this morning, and Mango Thai Cuisine for the food that will be served this afternoon. Thank you to our diamond sponsor, Comcast, for your continuous support in the future livelihood of the Southside region. I would like to invite Senior Director of Government Affairs, Terry Davis, to the stage to say a few words.
On behalf of Comcast, we are very proud to be a sponsor of the Leadership Conference. I remember last year in this room, there were many, many faces, and I'm very impressed by everybody getting up after a holiday and coming to Highline to be here to learn about leadership. Congratulations to the Success Foundation and the Chamber for such a great event. At Comcast, we are all about connecting our customers to what's important in their day every single day. And in order to do that, you have to be a leader in a space. And there's no better way for us to be a leader than to help connect our communities. And we do that in many different ways. Yes, we have our Internet Essentials program, which is helping all members of the community to connect to the internet. But we're also focused on digital skill building, entrepreneurship, and making sure that the small businesses have the opportunity to thrive. And we do that through our Comcast Rise. And thank you again, Sammy, for the Seattle Southside being a very important partner in helping get the information out about that program and bringing it in. Now, for leadership, Comcast is focused on our employees. We look at our employees as a growth opportunity for us in leadership. And we provide skill building in those vital skills for leadership every single day. But leaders are not born. It's a learned practice that you need to put into place. And there's no better opportunity than a conference like this to hear about those skills, learn about those skills, and take them on. And then I encourage you to look for ways in your community to be a leader. Now that may be like some of my colleagues, Carmen and others that have become an elected official, or it may be, hey, I'm going to volunteer for a nonprofit organization and bring my skills to them to help my community. Those are great examples of how you can grow your leadership skills in your own community and then maybe even transfer that to your job. So again, on behalf of Comcast, very proud to be part of this conference and look forward to hearing from the great panels that they have scheduled today. Thank you.
Up next, we have our platinum sponsors. Thank you to Alaska Airlines, Home Street Bank, BECU, Port of Seattle, and the City of SeaTac for your support of today's event. We would like to invite Alexander Yeremayev, the Economic Development Manager for the City of SeaTac, to come say a few words.
Thank you, Sammy, and everybody who made a choice to be here today. My name is Alexander Yeremayev. I am the Economic Development Manager for the City of SeaTac. And most of you are familiar with the city of SeaTac. However, the world does not know that it's a city for many people. And what I have learned over the years is that leadership, in order to lead, you have to be present and to show up. And if you don't show up, you can't lead. You can't even participate in that way. And we have been fortunate to work with the Chamber, Seattle Southside Chamber, over the years that I have been here and prior to myself, with Sammy and the team, and showing up and being deliberate and being present has been, I think, the key to the success of the Success Foundation Sammy's work and the work that we have going on in the Seattle Southside. And with that, I want to say thank you for the collaborative partners that we have here, and there's many. I call it the economic development family. So once you know one of us, you're part of the family, which is a big value add from a networking standpoint. Some of the things we're working on is Small Business Capital Access Program, and we have some flyers in the back here, so any CTAC business is able to get basic training and a stipend for completing business planning, as well as a home-based childcare program, so it's paid training with a stipend at the end to get licensed to do home day in childcare. We have more information in the back there towards where you may have gotten some snacks. Happy to be here, thankful to be here, and always reach out if I can connect you with someone. I'll be happy to do so. Thank you, Sam.
First of all, look at these words behind me, these big leadership conference. Did you know that Sammy and her team wanted each of those letters to be life-size, and then each of the speakers today were going to pop out at a designated time? Wouldn't that have been awesome? Next year, right? As Sammy said, I'm Josh Gerstmann. I'm the Vice President of Institutional Advancement here at Highline College. I'm not worried so much about the title. I just want to point that out because in the book it says Vice President. I happen to be one of 5 Vice Presidents here at Highline. In a few minutes, I have the privilege to introduce one of my colleagues who's an amazing Vice President here at Highline as well. But as our host, sponsor, and welcome you on behalf of Highline College, I was so excited when Sammy asked how many alumni are in the audience, and I saw several of you raise your hand. We are your Institute of Higher Education here in South King County, Southwest King County. As Terry Davis can attest, we have another awesome institution on the east side, that's Green River College. I happen to have spent about 19 years there. So if you think I look like a guy you once knew but had a full head of hair and a few less pounds around the midsection, yeah, that was me. But these institutions, along with Renton Tech, South Seattle, Bates, Pierce, we are the backbone of your economy here in Western Washington. We are where you can come for small business training through our small business development centers. We're where you can send your employees to get some short-term training, where your kids and colleagues can come as Running Start students and dual enrollment and get their life started. But we're here for a lifetime of learning as well. So when Sammy asked how many of you are alumni today, several of you raised your hand, but please know, all of you can be alumni of the future. Any one of you has an opportunity to come here and participate in any kind of educational program. In fact, with Dr. Penn's blessing, I'm going to say anybody that's in this room today participating in a day-long leadership institute, that's 8 hours towards your alumni status of Highline College. So something at Highline that we pride ourselves on is that we also are a center of humanity. That on this campus, we see all corners of the globe represented. More than 120 languages spoken by the students who come here. Whether they've come here by choice as an immigrant, or whether they've come here because of the life circumstances in their home country as a refugee, or if they've come here because their family has saved enough money to send them overseas to study as an international student. Or maybe they've been in Washington State for generations, and South King County is their home. I mention that because before we even start the discussion of your development as a leader, I think we have to recognize that good leadership, because there's all different kinds of leadership that we could talk about, but good leadership at its core is based on good humanity. It's based on us having that ability to have some empathy and ability to connect and engage and listen. And I really loved when Terry was up here. Terry and I have traveled in concurrent circles for the past 25 years or so. And so we've had the chance to be on stage and share messaging. And yes, leadership is about learning. We also talk that we want leaders who have vision. But vision is only one of 5 senses that we all employ. Now, I think there's probably a few of you out there who are extra special and may have a 6th or 7th sense. I'm not so fortunate. Some days I'm lucky if I have 3. But I do believe that to become a good leader, you have to tap into all 5 of those senses. You have to have that vision, that ability to see, but you have to be able to see peripherally as well as right in front. You have to be willing to look at everything that's happening in our community. And folks, it's a beautiful environment out there. the Puget Sound, the Salish Sea, the Olympic Mountains, the Cascade Mountains. We live in the most beautiful place. But sometimes in this community, as you drive down in the valley and across the valley or up and down the I-5 corridor, we have our friends and neighbors who are facing some real significant challenges, and we need to be able to see all that. For us to be great leaders, we need to be able to understand and what are we doing to address everything that our community is experiencing. In addition to that vision, we need to be able to listen. We need to be able to engage and actively hear what's happening within our community. And then this might be my favorite one, but you need a sense of touch. Being a leader in this community, you have to be tactile. You know, the Port of Seattle does amazing work that a lot of people don't know about. One of the things they do is they fund environmental projects up and down throughout these port-impacted communities. They give local grassroots organizations the chance to get in and get your hands dirty by digging into the earth, replanting trees, getting rid of non-original species that can plague our forests, and beautify and get this environment in a better place. Well, as leaders, we need to be willing to dig our hands in. And I know, we hear people talk about that leaders who can cause good trouble. I think that also there's good dirt that we can stir up through our ability to become leaders. And I think that before I move into transitioning, I want to take a moment to also acknowledge that, I stand up here as a 50-something-year-old white male. If that's a surprise to any of you, I apologize. I've had privilege my entire life. When I was in first grade, my mom came in to talk to Mrs. Siegel, my first grade teacher, and I overheard Mrs. Siegel tell my mom, Josh has leadership potential. He's he's somewhat silent in class, but he helps make sure we stay in the good in this class, and his students look up to him. Those words had a big impact on me. Mrs. Siegel said I was a leader, and I grasped a hold of that for my entire K-12 and higher education. So I've always viewed myself in those terms, but working here at Highline College and meeting people who have come from other countries and different backgrounds, I have a really great colleague. I learned something from her that in her community in Mexico, they don't have a word for leadership. They have a sense of community, a sense of family, a sense of role and what they're supposed to do, and they know that they do it. But they don't call that leadership. But I can tell you that that individual, Dr. Eileen Jimenez, is one of the strongest leaders that I know. And I would stand her with you, and I've asked for her permission to share that story publicly, because we don't always think of ourselves in this Western European concept of leadership, but no doubt about it, leadership shows up throughout our community in a multitude of ways, and especially here at Highline College. So if you get excited today, I encourage you to come back to Highline as a student, as a parent of a student, as a teacher, or just come enjoy our beautiful environment anytime. We'd love to have you. So as I transition from the welcome on behalf of Highline College, I mentioned that I'm one of 5 vice presidents here. When I originally was trying to remember the count, I counted 4 vice presidents. So if our friend Michael Pham is out on campus somewhere, please don't tell him I forgot about him in my count. But the one that is here, and that I definitely did not forget about, is Dr. Jamilyn Penn. And I could tell you that Dr. Jamilyn Penn has developed her leadership skills through a variety of experiences, starting at James Madison University, where she played as a D1 basketball player. Yeah, that's a pretty big, I never want to face her on the court, I'll let you know. I could tell you about her master's degree at Radford University and the doctorate she achieved from Northeastern University. The time that she spent at our peer colleges at Lake Washington, and with our state board of community technical colleges. I could spend probably 5 minutes talking about the experience she's had this past year as a member of the Rising Presidential Fellows through the Aspen Institute, and meeting with a cohort of individuals who are actually being primed to be that next generation of college presidents for a very important system across the country. I can touch on all that, but going back to the very first things that I mentioned about being a good human, I get to work with Dr. Penn on a daily basis. And Dr. Penn and I, we sit through some really challenging conversations. And she's somebody who's willing to listen. She's somebody who's willing to stir up that good dirt to make things happen. She's willing to go that extra mile on behalf of a student. And so as Dr. Penn comes up here, and I wind up my time, we are your representatives from Highline College today. We're also fortunate that the chair of our board of trustees, Jesse Johnson, is one of our speakers today, that we have other colleagues. And the last thing I want to say, Jamilyn, before I fully introduce you, is that on your tables and up there, don't look at that picture, please, but look at that QR code. If you were touched by anything that I've said about Highline College, you have conceptions about Highline College, or you want to learn more about Highline College, please click on that QR code and help us do our community perception survey, because we're trying to continue to be a better institution, and we need your impact. So that's what that QR code, it's on your tables. We'll talk about it later. And now I get to invite my very good friend from Highline College, Jamilyn Penn.
My name is Jamilyn Penn. Around the college community, people often refer to me as Dr. Penn. My pronouns are she, her. I've been at the college for about 4.5, almost 5 years, and it is fantastic work that we do every day on behalf of the students and the faculty and staff here. I'd like to welcome you. Chair Johnson was recognized just a few minutes ago, and I'd also like to say on behalf of Dr. John Mosby, who's the president of the college, it is my distinct pleasure to be here with you this morning. This morning we have an opportunity, we have about 15-20 minutes, and I will have an opportunity to speak with one of our dynamic leaders in the region. So I'll have her come up. We will talk in just a moment, but let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do here today. In our 15 to 20 minutes, it will be my absolute honor to talk with a courageous leader who exemplifies so much. Her courage, her commitment to community is quite outstanding, and we're going to learn a bit more about her today. This is Commissioner Hamdi Mohamed. She's not only a public servant in our region, she's a pioneer. And as we talk with her today, what we're going to learn that she is the first Somali woman elected in Washington State. And she brings a lived experience that represents so many in our region and reminds us that leadership is not just about position. Josh talked a little bit about that. It's about purpose. And so I would like for you to help me welcome to the stage Commissioner Hamdi Mohamed.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all. This room is packed. My journey, I'll share a little bit about it. I came to this country as a 3-year-old refugee from Somalia. And one of my first ports of entries was actually at SeaTac Airport, the airport that I oversee today. And we lived all over King County. Being someone who came to this country as a refugee, you could imagine just the difficulties of navigating many different systems that are already complex. So at times we were living unhoused. I probably went to 9 different public schools. No matter where my family moved to around this county, my mom always was someone who loved libraries. And she speaks 5 different languages, and so she always had a passion for education and for learning. Although English wasn't a language that she knew how to speak and was new to this country, she valued education. And so no matter where we went, we were always had the consistency of a library. And so I watched her work at SeaTac Airport. I watched her juggle multiple jobs. At our dinner table, my parents often talked about the work that they did. My father was a trucker, and he stopped doing that work after he got into an accident, which left him with 50% of his vision. and multiple broken bones. And so they would often talk about the challenges of like, paying medical bill versus paying your rent, and the challenges that a lot of working families face even today. And they talked about port industries, right? She worked at the airport, he was a trucker. I constantly heard about this international community that they described through TEUs, those container. He would take us to the waterfront, and you'd see all those containers, and he would describe it as an international community, people from all walks of life doing business together and trade and being in relationship with each other. And so, as you can imagine, when you're new to a country, you often feel like you don't belong, and that was his way of describing, giving us a sense of belonging. Fast forward, I ended up going to the University of Washington. I got 2 degrees from there, my undergrad and my master's from the University of Washington. Are there any Huskies in the room? And I also did Running Start when I was in high school, so I did go to community colleges as well. I went to South Seattle Community College. Yeah, and that was a really great experience for me. And then I decided to run for the Port of Seattle Commission. I'm the only commissioner that lives in South King County. The port's largest asset is SeaTac Airport. I felt like I could bring a different perspective to the commission. I felt like when it comes to how we're investing our dollars, who we're centering when we're making policy decisions, that I would be able to bring a fresh perspective to that commission, and ran for it and won.
And that win has definitely been a benefit to our region. I have no doubt about that. So what you've just centered for us is a conversation around the core, being family. You've looked at, within the scope of talking about your family, that conversation around resilience and building community. You've talked about some challenges, and also an understanding of how you came to learn about the workforce in the area through your family, and all of that wraps around into belonging within the scope of who we are within this region. One of the things that comes to mind for me, and often questions that I am asked, is around representation. And you often speak about the power, or I know that, and I've heard through some of the speeches that I've seen you give in spaces and places where I've been, where you didn't even know I was there, but I've learned some things about you. You often speak about the power of representation. What did it mean for you to become the first Somali woman elected in Washington, and what have you carried with you since?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think representation, diversity of perspective matters in everything that we do. And if you think about the line of work I'm in, when you think about the Port of Seattle, for instance, we are dealing with international communities. And I think for us to be competitive in the global marketplace, it requires having people who think differently from each other to be able to be making the best decisions. And so having a bunch of people who are all like-minded, I don't think helps us move the needle, whether it's in policy, education, in business. And so for me, I always think that representation does matter. It matters because it allows us to perform better. It allows us to understand each other. When you're breaking bread with people and learning about other cultures, you build a different sense of tolerance. And I think now more than ever, we actually really need that in our country. Tolerance for people who think differently than you. And so becoming the first is interesting. That's not like what you do. The reason you do something, it happens, and all of a sudden you start to feel what that means. It's like, oh, it's great. It's, you get highlighted as the first, but it comes with a weight of responsibility. I feel that weight of responsibility all the time. As a Black woman, as a Somali woman, you recognize that you are paving the way for something new. And so whatever seeds you plant today, it's gonna grow. And so I'm always thinking about the next generation of leaders, the next person who looks like me who might want to do this job. Am I making the best decisions to inspire them, to show them that it is possible and that you too can do this. And so I think being the first comes with a sense of responsibility that you constantly feel like you have to carry.
Thank you. Responsibility, representation and responsibility, I align most definitely with what you have shared. What really resonates with many hands make light work, and representation matters, and so when you have a diverse group of individuals who are coming together, that really does help to carry the work further and with greater intentionality, so thank you for that. We're going to transition a little bit, Commissioner, and talk a little bit about leadership and impact. And with regard to that, as a leader, you've been at the center of critical conversations, from workforce equity to immigration and community advocacy. With that in mind, what core values guide your leadership, especially in tough moments?
Yeah, I would say 1, transparency, accountability 2, and 3, collaboration. I feel like there's a lot of other values I could include in that, but being a public servant, serving the public, you are required to have a level of transparency to make sure that people know the reasons why we're making the decisions that we're making, that they feel included in that, and that even in difficult decision-making processes, that they too can be included in that. And so being just transparent about what is real is always so important to me. And then being accountable to those who we are serving. In leadership, you have to be able to make tough decisions. And when you make your decision, you gotta be accountable to it, right? And not be afraid to stand by it and explain why. And that is always centered in the way that I lead. And then collaboration. You could probably get things done by yourselves at times, but to be truly moving our region and thinking about it from a port perspective, you have to be able to be willing to collaborate. The Port of Seattle has 5 lines of businesses, and we're a special purpose government, meaning that we are regulated by the federal government. State laws apply to the Port of Seattle, and so constantly we have to be collaborative. You have to be able to bring stakeholders together, to bring different lines of businesses together, and to work on those things. Climate is one of the climate change and environmental justice. I heard you all speak about it earlier. That is an area where we prioritize as a port. How do we make sure that we are leaving a legacy that others can enjoy, and create a better environment for our communities? And for the port, for instance, there are different environmental levels that we have control over, right? Scope 1, Scope 2, carbon emissions, if we're talking about, for instance, those are under our control, but some of the biggest emissions comes from Scope 3. That is an area where that's our partners make those decisions, and they are the ones that have to be able to make policy decisions and investments to address that type of scope. So for us, we can't say, well, we did our part, we won't engage in conversations about Scope 3, right? It really takes being collaborative and working with your partners and bringing them to the table to talk about, how do we make sure that we are in this together and that we're being collaborative and are moving the needle for our community. It's not just our community, it's a collective. And for me, that's always a core value because I think it helps us do better.
You went right on into my next inquiry, and so I'm actually going to bring that full circle because I heard you talk a lot about collaboration, transparency, being present, and so that ties into this whole concept of being inclusive, what inclusive leadership looks like in practice. Any more details that you'd like to share there, or any specific examples that you can provide?
Yeah, sure. Being inclusive and being able to bring community together is important. I think about, we could talk about, we're in South King County, for instance, and when you think about the Port of Seattle and its impacts on the South King County communities, the airport is in the middle, in the heart of a bunch of different cities. And so you have to be able to work with those cities in order to do good business. We want to be a good neighbor. The port leads with that, right? We want to be a good neighbor to the cities that are closest to the airport. And in order to do that, we have to be inclusive. We have to be willing to bring the cities, bring the community members, bring the advocates, and to talk about what are their needs for us to introduce the best policies. We have the South King County Fund. It's a $14 million fund supporting the nonprofit organizations in this area. We are in constant relationship with the 6 cities that are closest to the airport, helping them with some of their environmental projects that they're doing. And then we're also listening to the residents. Last year, we introduced a sound installation repair and replacement program. It's a pilot program. It's first of its kind. Those who are closest to the airport, their windows get insulated, their homes get insulated, so all of the noise that are coming from the planes that are flying over their homes are having less of an impact on their daily lives. But we get our dollars from the feds to be able to run that program. And the way that the policies are written on the federal side is if you got your home insulated one time, it's kind of like a one and done thing. But some residents come back to us and say they got their windows insulated 30 years ago and they're still experiencing issues. We for a long time said, well, we got to get the feds to give us some more money. But this last year, we held listening sessions with the residents. We did tours, trying to understand exactly what it is that is going on. And we introduced a pilot program coming out of our tax levy dollars to actually re-insulate some of those homes. And we're doing it in a very intentional, thoughtful way to make sure that the homes who have the greatest impacts are being addressed first. And that took a very inclusive process. It took patience. It took leaning into a challenging discussions to get it done. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But ultimately, so many members of our community are happy with the direction we're going in. And because it's a pilot program, we'll be able to get to a place where it can become a permanent program, I hope, where we will learn from our experience and then set a permanent policy.
Outstanding, thank you. Ready for another transition? Transition of thought. Let's talk a little bit about vision and inspiration. As we look into the next generation of leaders in this room, we see a lot of people who are already dynamic leaders, but looking to see how they can be even more engaged in what they can learn, and that includes students, professionals, and change makers. What advice would you give those just beginning their leadership journey? So beginning or somewhere in the intermediary portion of that.
Yeah, there's a couple of advice I probably could give, and thinking back into my own life and what has worked for me, I would say, one, be guided by purpose. Know why you're doing what it is that you're doing, because I think that's when you can do the best work. And then two, I would say, be authentic. Lean into your story. No one's story is perfect. And I think it's okay to be vulnerable, to share the hardships that you've experienced. That only shows strength and it makes you relatable to everybody. But often we shy away from our experiences and our life challenges because we just think that's like a dark time in your life. But I would say be authentic and lean into that. And then lastly, I would just say find good mentors, right? Find people who've walked the path that you are trying to walk, and let them also be a guide for you, and don't be afraid to ask for help and to ask somebody to mentor you is what I would say. And thank you so much for this time and to share with you all.
Excellent, thank you so much. I want to round out with just a little bit more. And with that being said, what gives you hope for the future of leadership in our region and beyond?
Yeah, I think, we're in a moment where we're seeing so much resistance, right, in our country, in the world. And I say hope is also resistance. When you are thinking about a better future for yourself, for your community, that is also radical. And so what I say is believe that, push for that future that you want to leave for your kids, and let that inspire you. And we're stronger when we're united as a community. And so in these what feels like very challenging times in our world, what I would say is don't lose your sense of hope, and let that be your lighting, a light that guides you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mohamed. I want to thank you for sharing your heart and your wisdom and your commitment to equity and community with us today. I've learned just so much about you in just a few minutes this morning, and I'm sure that others in the room would say the same. We know more about your leadership and your vision. You've inspired me, for sure. And please, everyone, please work with me to give a round of applause and a strong commitment of thank you. Mm-hmm.